Thank you for coming to the BizTimes M&A Forum. My name is Kevin Anderson. I have the pleasure of serving as Milwaukee Market President for Old National Bank. I'm going to share a few quick insights into kind of my piece in the M&A puzzle. And then I'll be turning it over to my esteemed colleague, Chris Brumfield, with 1834, our wealth management arm. But I have the pleasure of wearing two hats for Old National, not only in my day job as our market president, I also have the pleasure of running what we call our business banking division. And what our business banking division is it is basically the arm of the corporate side of the bank that works with our clients that have revenues or sales between about 5 million on the low end and about 75 million on the high end. So think of this as true middle market USA. And I happen to have the pleasure of working with that team and leading that team all across the bank's footprint. We have a little bit of our basic statistics up here. We're a Midwestern-based franchise, so we have our bankers sitting basically from Minnesota all the way down to Tennessee, all the way over to Michigan. And inside the business banking group that I have the pleasure of working with, we have over 12,000 individual companies we work with across all these states. And that is approximately 115 bankers working with those companies across this footprint. I've had the pleasure of being in our industry in commercial banking over 30 years. And I have had the pleasure of working with so many companies that both decide to make the decision to sell or make the decision to buy. And so I want to give you a little bit of insight, kind of take you behind the curtain of how that process works. And I do not believe that our process is terribly dissimilar to others in our industry, but I will point out a few things that we think are quite unique. So the first thing that we do is that whenever we receive a client's financial information, and generally we receive that either on their fiscal quarter, so their quarter end so if you think of it as a calendar year end for the company, so we're receiving it in March and June and September and December. Or we receive it semi-annual, so we'll receive it in the middle of the year. And when we get that information, we look for trends, right? We look for trends in the business. And when we see certain trends, and based on our conversations with the client, we reach out, we sit down face-to-face or virtually, tell the client the trends that we see. We do trend analysis because we look back year over year, quarter over quarter, and we start asking questions. And a lot of the questions that we ask are, what are your plans? What are you going to do with this division? What about growth in this market? Why are margins thinner here than they were last year? Why are margins higher this year than they were last year? And many times in working with clients and gaining their trust and building a relationship, we always tend to come to a fork in the road around, I'm not sure what the future holds. I've been growing my business 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and I have to make a decision about what comes next. And typically, our clients have key stakeholders all around them. Their banker, their attorney, their CPA, if they have a board, whether it is a formal board or an informal board of directors. And the owner is asking this group of individuals for input. Where we step in is that we tend to know the numbers extremely well, even many times better than their CPA, because we're looking at different things. We're looking at different metrics. And so we talk to them about timing. We talk to them about what is important to them. What do they want their legacy to be? Are they interested in, we heard it in the general session, are they interested in an ESOP? Are they thinking of selling to a strategic? If they're on the buy side, do they want to, how much time do they have left in their career? Do they want to buy? So these are the basic kind of conversation starters where we take the relationship that we have built with our clients over time and start to have a conversation. And I do want to state something here at the beginning. What we're doing right here is a conversation as well. So if anything I state or Chris states, if you have any questions, please just raise your hand or interrupt us, because we don't want to just talk. We want to answer and address any questions that you have, and no question is out of bounds. So that's generally how the conversations start. And what we tend to bring up to our clients is, have you thought about what comes after the sell? Okay. Have you thought about what you wish to do with your wealth? How charitable do you wish to be to your employees, to the organizations that you care about? What is important to you? And as we start to dive into those conversations and uncover those conversations, we reach out to our colleagues in our wealth management group, 1834, and bring them in on the conversation with the client. Now, if we're doing our jobs well, we have started to probe with our clients and explain to them the importance of having these conversations early on the wealth side, so that they understand the impact of taxes, they understand the impact of whether they wish to create a trust, if they don't have one, what that means. And you need expertise to decide which path you wish to go down. So what is a little unique to our process, kind of in our industry, is the collaboration between the banker that wears the hat of loan officer, advisor, critic, comparing your business to others in the industry, and when we partner with the folks that really know how to advise you on using and managing your wealth that you have built up for decades. We tend to work in pairs. That works best for us. We like to meet face to face. We are able to discern things more clearly when we meet face to face. There's nothing wrong with virtual. There's nothing wrong with it. But there is something to be said for decisions this important when you're meeting face to face. So that's a little bit of insight into our business model, how we do what we do. Are there any questions before I turn it over to Chris? Are there any questions I can answer? Anything? Okay. I will tell you this, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chris. I know there's a lot of uncertainty. We get it. We read the headlines too. But please do not be distracted by the headlines. Now is a wonderful time to be thinking about the topics of either selling or buying a business, because the fundamentals inside our economy are still very, very sound. Now, over the years, we got spoiled with cheap money, right? Rates are a little bit higher, but they are historically very, very low. And the basic foundation that our economy is sitting on, especially here in the Midwest, is really outstanding. So I just wanted to give that editorial comment. Please do not be fearful around what you see in the financial media or in the news.
Thank you, Kevin. My name's Chris Brumfield. I am a part of 1834, the Wealth Management Division of Old National Bank. Before you say, where did that come from? 1834 is a nod to our headquarters as to when Old National opened their doors in Evansville. So that's where the name comes from. And Kevin so eloquently outlined that we work together pretty closely. We really work as a team. But as you're sitting out there, that's great. Love to hear it. But through your lens, what does it mean? What is it? How can it benefit you? If you take a look at one of the documents that they really kept coming back to today, it was the succession plan. What is your business succession plan? Where are you looking to go? How are you going to get there? That document is really critically important for the business banking side to share directions. It's also important for the wealth management side because it shares the direction as to what you envision when you get to a point where you make some decisions about your business. So if we take a look at succession plans, it's a living, breathing document. We like to call it that because it's always changing. It's never going to be the same thing that you put in writing when you first initiate it. But what ultimately happens is as you go through that with a business, there's many times the information isn't shared within that document. There might be some really good reasons not to. But there's a statistic out there that 1/3 of family business owners have shared that information with a family member or another person within their circle. That means there's 2/3 of a family or of a business that hasn't shared anything. And that leaves a lot to chance. So what we do with the business succession plan, in concert with working with business banking at the appropriate time, is our first thing is to bring in a wealth planner. And that, well, I should back up. Hold on. I have cards here for a reason to keep me on track. And I'm not using it. The first thing we want to know from your business succession plan, what do you want to do? Do you want to sell your business? Do you want to transition it to a family member? Do you want to maybe do a hybrid of the two, where you have family? Do you have another member that isn't in the family that needs to be considered? A lot of big topics, a lot of different ways to think about it. That's where getting involved with a wealth planner is going to be important to consider. Are you going to get one large payout? Are you going to get multiple payouts? What's that going to look like? How's that going to impact me from a tax perspective? What's that going to do for me long term for my wealth plan? So we take the time to really sit down with our clients and to talk about trusts. Kevin alluded to that earlier. We're going to look at a wide variety of trusts. We have a wealth planning staff that consists of CFPs, CPAs, as well as on our team we have 2 attorneys. They come in with different ideas, all the strategies that we should consider for each unique situation. But it's also important to note that while we have 2 attorneys on staff, they are not drafting documents. They are here in the strategic sense only. They will provide that information. We work with our clients to move that information to an attorney so that they can document it accordingly. Or if you need a reference, we provide that as well. But that way, we are able to take that information and separate that from what we do at the bank. So we work together with your attorney. It might even be a CPA in some instances. We consider ourselves your personal board of directors. So now drill down even further. What else are we going to look at? We're going to look at things such as retirement planning or the what's next planning, because some people are saying, I'm not retiring, I'm just going on to what's next. That's kind of what Jerry was alluding to. He says he's retired, but there's something there that he said in the last session. So what is that going to look like? We need to prepare for after the event. The other thing we have to take a look at is your legacy. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? That could be anything from transfer of assets, perhaps a gifting strategy with your family, or maybe it's a charitable inclination that you have. And so it's really important to go through these steps early and to just emphasize before we open it up for a further discussion, just to give you an idea of how important it is to start planning now for the future. If we look at a couple of ways that you can save some taxes through charity, the first one is after the event is over and you have liquidity, you can put funds in a donor-advised fund. 1834 has a donor-advised fund where you can put some of those funds in there and immediately get a tax deduction. So that's a terrific opportunity. You don't have to worry about writing the grants and where it goes to till later on, because right now you're focused on your business. The other method, and this is where the early planning will come in, is you can even, case by case, we have to review it, but we have the opportunity to take somebody who has a business with privately held shares, greatly appreciated, and writing up part of that sale agreement, we can have it where some of those privately held shares that you identify go into this donor advised fund. It can go in there, and then with the sale of the business, the liquidity pulls those shares back to the new owner, puts the liquidity in the donor advised fund. You're able to avoid the capital gains tax, and you also get your interest deduction. But I caution, it's a case-by-case situation. But at 1834, we have a donor advice fund that helps our clients with that. So that is just merely touching the top on what we can do to help our clients. And so I could keep going on, but I'm not going to, because that's not answering your questions. And so that's where Kevin and I wanted to turn it over to you and to find out what else you have on your mind.